Now, the thing I love about your show is what I do is not as important as why I do it. What I've found is I believe that everyone just wants to be loved, feel that in their heart. But we've been taught that love has to come from other people. So in that we try to fit in. We try not to rock the boat. We try to be what we think other people will approve of. Whereas when you start to love yourself first, fill your heart up with your own love, then the love you get from other people is just a bonus. It's not necessary. And from being in that state of filling yourself with your own love, you become more powerful, you become more confident, you become more authentic, and you really begin to shine. And that has an impact on your relationships, on your success, on your health. And that's what I'm there to help people access, and that's how I serve people.
Welcome to the How to Heart Show, helping men reconnect to the heart and empower others as the leaders they were born to be. I'm Vincent Hazenboom. My mission is to help you speak your truth, own your authenticity, and step into your power. The world needs the raw and authentic man right now. Join us if you're ready to make a change. Hey, what's up, Lions, and welcome to the How to Heart Show. Today, I'm really excited because I brought a super extraordinary guest, and I'm here with Shiraz Baboo. And I had the pleasure already had to have a conversation with him. And what I really liked about him is his calm aura. He's always really like calm and smooth. And I really wanted to have him on the show because of that, but also he's a reality interventionist. And I was really curious about that. I was really curious what it is and what he's doing. And I know it's going to help a lot of people, also me included. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with Shiraz. So, Shiraz, welcome.
Thank you, Vincent. It's great to be here.
Yeah, for me, what I really like again is really your calm vibe. So how I also want to give you a full introduction, but how did you get that cool vibe? How did that started?
That's actually from years of this type of meditation I do. So a while back, I was working with a mentor, and he gave me this exercise where it's you're breathing, and you inhale and imagine the air coming right down through your body to the tips of your toes. And as you exhale, you watch that energy come back from the tips of your toes and back out your mouth. You continue doing that for about 15 minutes, and you're not allowed to have any other thoughts pop up in your mind except watching the energy go down and watching the energy come up. So it trains you to focus your brain on a single thing. The side effect is that you get calm, you get focused. So when there's chaos going on around you, you can still stay focused on a single thing. And your overall demeanor just becomes one of calm confidence. I didn't even realize that was a side effect. I was just learning to focus and concentrate. And this is good. I like this.
Yeah, it's really cool. Also that you learn this technique and you can really see the way you talk, the way you move. So I really want to go a little bit deeper into that as well. But before we go into that, can you share with us who you are in a nutshell and what you do?
I am a reality interventionist. I work with people that are addicted to their current circumstances, which is about 99% of the world. And most people don't realize that what you're going through isn't actually reality, it's an addiction to what you've decided reality is. And the way that works is, for instance, let's say someone told you that you have to work hard to succeed. Once you've done a job, you can feel real proud of having worked hard and done a good day's work. So you create that reality where you're working really hard. At the end of the day, you're like, look what I did. And when you're like, look what I did, you get a hit of dopamine. And so now you have to continue to work hard to get your fix of dopamine at the end of the day for having worked really hard. So if someone says, here's an easier way to do it, and you do it that way and it doesn't feel as satisfying, you didn't get a big enough hit of dopamine, then you're like, it doesn't feel quite right. And you'll find a way to work hard again so you can go back to your fix. And this is not conscious at all. You'll just find that that easy way didn't work for some reason. You were unconsciously sabotaging yourself to keep your addiction going. Now, the thing I love about your show is what I do is not as important as why I do it. what I've found is I believe that everyone just wants to be loved, feel that in their heart. But we've been taught that love has to come from other people. So in that, we try to fit in. We try not to rock the boat. We try to be what we think other people will approve of. Whereas when you start to love yourself first, fill your heart up with your own love, then the love you get from other people is just a bonus. It's not necessary. And from being in that state of filling yourself with your own love, you become more powerful, you become more confident, you become more authentic, and you really begin to shine. And that has an impact on your relationships, on your success, on your health. And that's what I'm there to help people access, and that's how I serve people.
You also mention addiction. How strong is that with people in reality and addiction?
Oh, it's incredibly powerful. So, I mean, you look at the statistics, 90% of people that try to start small businesses fail. 92% of people trying to get success fail. 90% of people that even win the lottery fail. 90% of the population is stuck in the addiction. The last 10% learn how to get past and create bigger and better results.
Okay, but
But
also the question that came up to me is also, what is a reality interventionist? What is it
so
actually that you're doing? It's really about changing people's mindset.
it's not just mind, it's body, because it is physical addiction, right? You're getting your dopamine
Mm.
fixes. There's a chemical addiction going on there. So when I help you realize what the addiction is, because a lot of people don't realize what the addiction is. If you were taught that rich people screw over poor people, then number one, your mind says, well, let's make sure we're never rich, so then we don't ever have the chance to become someone that screws over poor people, right? You don't, again, not consciously, that's just a subconscious thing to keep you safe. Then whenever you see a rich person screw over a person, your mind says, see, that's not me. And you get hit with dopamine in that case too. And you can have all these reasons to get these dopamine hits that keep your money locked in a certain place, that keep your relationships locked into a certain place. And so I come in and I say, look, the reality you created is hurting you, and it's possibly hurting people around you. So let's find out what the source of that addiction is. Once we identify it and you consciously say, oh, I don't need to do that anymore, then you can let go of that addiction and your reality can physically change.
And how did that started? Did it started with trauma first, or is it really about how we perceive the world, how we've been taught, how we've been educated?
So, yes, for both. Some people, it comes from trauma. So, for instance, my one of my big things was I had rheumatoid arthritis from age 22, and I suffered with it for almost 18 years. I tried everything I could to get out of that, medication, supplements, diets, yoga, acupuncture, meditation. Nothing would work. And then when I worked with a mentor, he pointed out after several weeks of working together and going through my life, he said, "Well, you believe you're responsible for everyone." And I said, "No, I don't. Like, I know I'm a responsible guy, but I'm not responsible for everyone. That's just too many people." And he said, "I know you don't think you do, but from everything we've talked about, it's obvious you've created a belief that you need to be responsible for everyone in your life." And I said, "Okay, let's just suppose that's true." And I don't think it is, but let's suppose it's true. What's that even got to do with arthritis? There's no connection there. And he said, "Oh, no, no. You don't want to be responsible for everyone." I said, "Yeah." He said, "And if you're lying in bed in pain, you don't have to be responsible for anyone. You don't have to feel guilty about it. If people see you struggling to get through the day with your arthritis, they're not going to ask you to take care of them. Your arthritis isn't a problem, it's your solution." I'm like, "This is so messed up. Why would I do that to myself?" He goes, "It's just what we do. Most chronic illnesses are solutions to problems people don't realize they have." And I said, "Well, then, if I just say I'm not going to be responsible for anyone, then the arthritis should just go away." And he said, "Yeah. Like, but you have to believe it deep down that you don't need to be responsible for anyone else." So I said, "Fine. I'm not going to be responsible for anyone else." And the next day, there was no pain. There was no inflammation. I had more mobility. I'm freaking out because I've tried getting out of this for 18 years. This guy says, stop being responsible, and it just goes away. But that was what the whole thing was based on. And so we have these core beliefs that we feed into that create the life we have, whether it's illness like arthritis, whether it's constantly being busy. So some people are taught, if you're not working, you're lazy. And someone says that when you're like 6 years old, and now you're an adult, and that's running around in your subconscious. You've long forgotten it consciously. But what's happening in your life is I'm always busy. There's never enough time in the day. Why can't I get a break? Because unconsciously you think, well, if I give myself a break, I'm being a lazy person, and I can't be a lazy person. That would feel horrible. So this is what we do to ourselves. And the other thing is the addiction part comes in there too, because while you're busy and you get to the end of the day and you had a really busy day, you say, see, I wasn't a lazy person, and you get your dopamine fix again. And now you're in an addictive state. So when you try to change your reality and you say, in that case, find ways to be more efficient so you have less to do, then you start to see an increase in your success as you have more free time. But your body's like, where's my fix? So it causes things to go wrong. You have the technology failure. You have, you know, you mix up meeting times. And so now you've got to juggle this. And so suddenly you're busy again, and you go back down in your success back to where your addiction level is. And your body is like, oh, that feels better. Even though consciously you're like, I was trying to save time and now I'm back to where I started. What the hell happened? You don't realize you're creating it all. The secret is when you realize that you are going into withdrawal, realize, oh, I'm starting to go into withdrawal from the addiction. No, I'm going to stay exactly where I need to be, keep moving up. And eventually that addiction will go away and you will become addicted to something else. And that's the key, because your body always wants to be addicted to something. When you start consciously choosing the things, you start consciously creating your life. So, for instance, I used to get stopped at borders all the time. Every time I crossed the border, I got stopped. I would get searched. I would get my luggage searched. I would get my vehicle searched if I'm driving. I get asked extra questions. One time, I got thrown in jail, and it was just crazy. I was telling one of my coaches about this. I'm like, every time it happens, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what's causing it, because there's usually some benefit to your unconscious mind, right? So that feeling of being proud for doing a hard day's work, or not being a jerk that rips people off. There's always that little feeling. And I said, there's no upside for this. I'm going through this whole experience. I'm getting frustrated. I'm losing money. Sometimes I get humiliated. Lots of times I get angry. There's no upside. And my coach said, well, Shiraz, whenever you tell your border crossing stories to people, you light up. You feed off their reaction to you. It's like, oh, Shiraz, again, it happened. It feels like love to you. And you're constantly looking for love from other people, and you're using the border stories as a way to get it. I was like, oh my God, I'm using my struggle to get love. And I've seen lots of other people do that. Like, I had such a hard day, or I never get the break I want. And they say these stories over and over to people, and people are all compassionate. So it feels like they're getting love. When he told me that, I said, you know what? I'm going to get love from people celebrating my successes. I'm done with this struggle thing. I'm going to create more success. I'm going to hang out with people that are empowered, and we're going to say, all right, you accomplished that. And, you made this much money. You launched this program. You helped this many people. We're just going to celebrate those successes. And that's what love is going to feel like for me. And when I made that decision and implemented it, I stopped getting stopped at borders, because I didn't need that fix anymore. I was getting the fix from the successes. And this is sometimes all it takes is that decision, that conscious decision, because you like, if you're watching this, you're now going to know you need a fix from something. Now start choosing how you're going to get that fix.
It's really interesting because a lot of questions came up in my mind. But what really resonated with me, what you told me, was I had the same thing. I was always like, had these struggles, and I
Mhm.
was telling this to people over and over again. I was like, oh, Vince, it's so bad this happened to you. And I felt so good. I felt, like you said, loved again.
Yeah.
But then I cut myself, like, this is not okay because I'm always telling the same story. I also had dating coaches. Dating coaches were coming to me. It's like, hey, I'm struggling. And I was always telling the same story. I was repeating my own story. And then I was like, I need to stop because I know what I have to do. I have to take action, but I was looking for ways to repeat that story. So
Mhm.
how was it for you, Shiraz, to break that down? I was like, okay, now I need to change. But how was it for you to actually make a change? Because I don't think from the way that you handled yourself in the beginning and not like a switch flipped on and you're just gonna do the other thing. So how was it for you? Was it difficult?
It um, it was difficult getting into the mindset of creating continual success, because
Yeah.
now I'm losing that part of love for struggle. However, it was I didn't even notice that I wasn't getting stopped at borders anymore because my mindset was so far off to another place, determined to create that success. And then I looked back and I went, "Wow, it's been a while since I've been stopped at borders." And then I'm like, "It's been like a year," and I travel a lot. I travel at least once a month, and it was a year had gone by and there was no stopping. And then I remember one time I was coming back from Mexico. I'd done a speaking gig down there and I was at customs, and the guy says, "So, what were you doing in Mexico?" I said, "I was at a speaker's retreat." And he said, "So you're a speaker?" I said, "No, I'm a reality interventionist." And he goes, "Okay, now you're gonna have to explain what that is." And so I explained what a reality interventionist is, and then he's just looking at me, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I said, "I know I'm not going to get stopped again. I'm out of that story. But what is happening here?" And he's just staring at me, and I'm staring back at him. And then finally, I looked at him and said, "Do you want my card?" And he goes, "Yes, I want your card." So things have gone a completely different direction now with the borders. It's actually fun.
That's really interesting because also what you mentioned, also you change your story and then your world changed as well.
Yes.
Because I'm also listening to what's it called? Your wish is your command.
Mhm.
And they also said like your mind is a beacon. It's gonna always put out frequency. So if you're thinking always negative, the negativity will always come to you. You receive that.
Yes.
And now I'm learning to change that negative into positive, but it's so difficult because I've been living like in a negative state almost my entire life. And now to tell myself that I'm amazing, that I lovable, that women like me and all of that, it's so hard because I don't really believe it. And I'm telling myself, I'm trying to believe it, but it's so difficult. So why is it for us as human beings so hard to change and really go back into addiction or to drinking or drugs? Why is that?
Because we're used to it. It's familiar. Even if it's bad for us, it feels familiar and comfortable. So we go back to what felt familiar and comfortable until we create a new space that feels familiar and comfortable. So one of the things that I started doing was saying, well, things are working out for me. I just started saying, I know things aren't great at the moment, but things are working out for me. And then whenever something worked out for me, I would sort of anchor that in my body. See, things are working out for me. And when you start doing this and anchoring, like, there it is, more evidence that things are working out for me. And then the more evidence, then your mind starts looking for ways for things to work out for you. And so then it became, well, everything works out for me. Like it grew from things are working out, are starting to work out for me to they are working out to me to everything works out for me. And then people started noticing, and I would say it out loud too, just like not to show off, but just in a playful thing. Something would go really well, and I'm like, see, because everything always works out for me. See, because everything always works out for me. And then people would see things working out for me, and they go, yeah, because everything always works out for you. So now they're saying it to me, which means it's going in my head, going into my subconscious, and they're now programming me that everything's always working out for me. In one of my programs, that's one of the things we do is we program each other. We keep telling each other, because everything works out for you, because you're awesome. You got this, right? And if something great happens, that's how you roll, right? That's so we celebrate successes and then we normalize it because we can't just celebrate it because your mind can think, well, that's a one-off. It's hard to get to these celebrations and these big successes. But when we normalize, it's like, well, that's just what happens for you. That's how you roll. Then your mind thinks, oh, kind of success is normal for me. Cool. And then it starts to create more and more of that kind of success. That way, and then you get addicted to people telling you that everything works out for you, that that's how you roll, that that's just the kind of success you have. It feels good. You start getting those hits. So you start functioning in a way to continue getting those fixes, which is a complete success mindset.
I wasn't even aware that also the negative can also give dopamine because I was only thinking about the positive that you get the dopamine fix. I also know when you watch pornography, you get the dopamine as well, but I didn't know you get dopamine also when you're negative.
Yes. The the most
Oh.
the most common for a negative dopamine hit is you get to be right. Like if your story is
Mm.
my partner's always cheat on me, and then your next partner cheats on you. See, and now you're getting hit in that dopamine in that. See, that happened
Mm.
again every time. So, and I've watched people choose being right over being rich, over being in great relationships, over being healthy, over being happy, because feeling right feels so good inside when you get your fix.
But is it also the ego? Like the ego wants to be right, or is that another part?
That's part of it. It's mixed up. So the ego wants to be right, and then the ego rewards you with your dopamine fix.
Ah.
So I say, well, what if being wrong would be a wonderful thing? Oh, I didn't think I'd make an extra $1 million this year. I guess I was wrong. I didn't think I'd meet the love of my life. I guess I was wrong. Being wrong could be amazing.
That was for me, yeah, like you mentioned, that was for me. I'm also thinking about my life. I was like, wow, there's so many things that you said and mentioned. It was like, it reflects so much on myself. I do the exact same thing, and I was always talking the negative. Also, what I want to go into is also what I struggle is with women. I always go into the negative when I want to talk to somebody. My body just froze up, and I just so hard for me to walk up to her and say like, hey, you look really nice, and I'm always in this negative state. So how can just to be a bit selfish now, but how can I change that? So from a playful mindset and just walk up to women and have fun with them instead of be, oh, is she not gonna reject me, or she's gonna be like doesn't like me? So how is that the change? And also for other men that also struggle like
Mm.
dating and relationships, how can they change that?
So one of the things you want to flip around is to get away from how can I make them like me to I wonder if we're aligned, right? So most guys, when they see a girl, it's how can I make them like me? And the reverse is true. A lot of women do the same thing. It's how can I make the guy like me if they're really attracted to? And what happens? I do a relationship course on this. Is for most relationships that are starting in this day and era, is you've got a guy trying to be what he thinks the girl will like, which isn't completely him. Some parts of it will be him, but others he's looking at the girl. Oh, she likes this type of guy, so I'm going to try and be like that. And then the girl is attracted to the guy, and she's doing the exact same thing. So now you've got two people in a relationship with two people that don't actually exist because they're both trying to be what they think the other person likes. And then you get,
Mm.
6 months, a year down the line, you're like, where's the person I met in that bar way back when? What happened to
Yeah,
that person? Well, that person never existed, right? So when you stop trying to be what you think they'll like, and you just say, let's see if we align, then you just show up as you. You don't try to impress them. You don't try to entice them. You just show up as you to see how they interact with you. And if it does not go well, then they weren't your person. If it does go well, then they're liking you for exactly who you are without you trying to be anyone. And that means the relationship's going to last.
but then you have to learn to love yourself first, right? Because if you
You
can't love
absolutely.
yourself, you cannot love somebody else.
So you have to talk to yourself in a loving way. Right.
Mhm.
And I know for a lot of guys, it's like in a loving way. Well, first of all, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I love you, you're amazing. I'll sit there and go, God, Shiraz, you're awesome. Like, just own it. Own that Shiraz. I'll walk by the mirror going, yeah, you're looking good, man. You're looking good today. And I'll just do this playful banter with myself, which is loving. Like what you would do for your buddy that's having a hard day, how you cheer him up. You cheer yourself up that way. Another thing you can do is just imagine you're talking to a 4-year-old version of you, right? And that 4-year-old version of you is trying to create success but had a really bad day. Would you go up to a 4-year-old? Like for ourselves, we go, what's wrong with you? Why, you're better than this. Why didn't you do better? You don't do that to a 4-year-old. You don't go up to a 4-year-old. You're better than this. What is wrong with you? You're like, you had a hard day. It's good. I'm here for you. We're going to get through this. Like that's how you would talk to that kid. If you don't, then you've got other issues you need to work on. But for the most part, that's how you start talking to yourself like that. Start to talk to yourself in a loving way. And again, the more you fill yourself up with love, the more powerfully you show up, and the easier it is to start receiving love, because the world's going to reflect back to you who you are. So if you really, really get to a place of love, and this is not ego and arrogance, this is no, I genuinely love me. You're going to find a lot of people saying, I just love you. You're cool. Like whether it's a guy or a girl, I love who you are. I love hanging out with you, and you'll see more and more of that in your life. Right? I was talking to a friend. I hadn't seen him in years, and he said, we had set up a meeting to talk, and he said, I've been talking to a bunch of people lately, and you've come up. And the crazy thing is, no one's got anything bad to say about you. And I said, really? And he goes, I said, were you looking for bad stuff on me? Because So he said he said no, but it was just like with some people, generally speaking, they've got some good things to say, but there's also like some people it's like, but he's got this knowing attitude, or they're a little egotistical, or whatever it is. But he said, but for you, really nothing that people are saying that's bad. And it is because I've gotten to this place of I truly, truly, truly love me. And so that gets reflected. And it's a chore because again, you're addicted to every aspect of your life. So if when you punish yourself, when you do that negative self-talk, what's wrong with you? Do better, right? Once you've had that talk, you'll get a dopamine hit that's saying, look, I talk to myself to make myself do better. I'm doing the right thing, and you get your dopamine fix, even though that was absolutely the wrong thing to do. But oftentimes when we're growing up, we get punished for bad behavior, right? So we get punished by our parents or by our teachers. That's just to teach us to live a better life, to have moral standards, to achieve more. As an adult, you don't have that supervision. So when you screw up, that's the punishment. You don't need to then punish yourself on top of that. You're double dipping at that point, right? So you didn't make that big sale. Instead of saying, what's wrong with you for not making the big sale? I said, well, the punishment was I didn't get the sale. Now let me just love myself, and I'll try to do better next time to get a big sale. But most people in the world are double dipping on punishment. You can stop.
So it's all about what you're telling yourself, really, just to
Yes.
change your world and you change your life. It's all about how you talk to yourself.
Yes. And
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
just everything you're saying to yourself and everything people are saying to you is going into your subconscious. So when you change your language, and when you change that language in front of other people in a playful way, not in an arrogant way, then they're going to be repeating that to you too. There was a period where I kept saying I'm awesome, and I'd be with my friends, and I'm like, I accomplished that. Do you know why? And they're like, why? Because I'm awesome. I'm like, oh, shut up. and so I kept doing it. Then after a while, I'd say, hey, you know why that happened? They're like, because you're awesome. I'm like, yeah, because I'm awesome. But they kept repeating it. Right? So it works.
Ye- Yeah. It really amazes me how easily it is to change, really, just to how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
But it's really how we are living in society, right? There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of negativity on social media, on the news. So we're constantly bombarded with negativity. So it's really hard for us also to go into this positive mindset or
Yeah.
this positive state and feel good because we don't know any better.
Yeah.
Usually it's heartache. We go through pain, loss of money, loss of a child. There's always lose and always pain. So
Yeah.
for us as people, it's really hard to make that change. So what can you tell to the people that's really going through a really rough time, a really hard, difficult time, and they're in a depression and they don't see a way out? What can you tell to those people, say, like, to change the mindset and really start to have like a more bright future?
You start getting into this more loving place of yourself. Also start hanging out with more positive people. Right? It's been said that we're the average of the five closest people to us. So if you're in a negative place, look around and see if the people around you are in a negative place. You don't want to hang out with those negative people as often as you are. I'm not saying cut them off, because some of them could be really good friends. Start hanging out with more positive people so you're in that space. The other thing is, with guys especially, we tend to razz each other, right? So you're walking along, you accidentally trip, your buddy's like, oh, moron. Like, and they're doing it with love, but that word is going into your brain. Now if you suddenly changed and said, oh, look, you the sorry about that, I care about you, that feels weird, and like guys aren't used to doing it. However, you can change the language so that you can still be razzing them, but in a different way. So the guy trips and you go, damn, you're graceful. Right? They know you're being sarcastic, but what's happening is your unconscious mind just processes the words, not the tone. So they're putting you're graceful into your head. You do something really stupid and someone goes, well, that was brilliant. They're putting you're brilliant into your head. So when you can do that with
Mm.
your buddies and teach each other to do it that way, you can still have that playfulness that we're used to, but it's all positive.
And what about the feeling? Because you can also say something really cool, but you feel awful. So how do you change that feeling that in a positive, like vibrant feeling that you feel alive and feel really good.
So you need to start doing things to put yourself in that positive space. The easiest emotion to get into is gratitude. Um,
Mhm.
so you can be grateful for so much in your life, and there's all these tools out there for gratitude: gratitude journals, gratitude exercises, gratitude rituals. You can start doing that. Gratitude is a very powerful emotion, and it helps you to get out of the addiction to the negative emotion. Because here's the other thing: if you've read the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza, they go into the science of how you are addicted to a specific emotion. Right. So let's say your life is full of frustration and you're frustrated most of the time. Then what actually happens is every emotion causes a release of chemicals in the body. And each emotion has its own chemical makeup, its own chemical cocktail. So frustration has specific chemicals that get released into the body. Your cells actually create receptors for your default emotion, the emotion you experience more than any other. So if you're frustrated most of the time, there are receptors on your cells specifically for the chemicals for frustration. So if you decide, I'm going to go be grateful all the time, then you start doing your gratitude practice. Those frustration chemicals, excuse me, don't hit your cells. So your cells send a signal to your brain saying, we're in withdrawal. Do something to make this person frustrated. And then someone
Mm.
says something that frustrates you. You take an action unconsciously that frustrates you, and you go, oh man, I was just in gratitude, now I'm back in frustration. Now those chemicals hit your cells, your whole body goes, oh, thank God. Right? And so that's what's happening. You're getting pulled back to that old emotion. When you realize that this is happening and you continue to stay in gratitude far more often than frustration, then your cells will get rid of those receptors, put receptors for gratitude on themselves, and now you're addicted to gratitude. So once you've done it
Mm.
long enough to get into that new state, if something happens to frustrate you, then your cells go, well, where's our gratitude chemicals? They'll send a signal up to your brain, make this person grateful for something, and you're like, oh, okay, I feel better already. And this is scientifically shown now. This is what actually happens to us.
Is it that easy?
It's not easy because you're gonna go through withdrawal symptoms the
Yeah.
whole time your body is adjusting. It's gonna feel awkward and weird, and you're gonna try to find reasons to become frustrated or afraid or sad or whatever it is, and you have to stay in that new space. It's just like, if you were doing alcohol, you're gonna wanna drink that drink. You're gonna feel that craving for it, and you have to stay without the alcohol until your body's like, "Well, we just don't do that anymore."
It's really, like you said, it really sounds easier than said to be done.
Yeah.
So why is it then for people, so again with the addiction, why is it then for people to, like me, I've been like a porn addict for like most of my life, and I
Mhm.
always went back, always when I went out and I didn't have any success with women,
Yeah.
I always went back to pornography because it's safe and
Yep.
feeling like there's always this safety. I was bumping in my head always with safety,
Yes.
always looking for safe ways. But I can also feel safe with a woman if I'm comfortable with her. But I was always like going to the negative, to the pornography.
Yep.
So I was always curious, why is that always that I was jumping instead of, you already mentioned it, that you go to that because it's, yeah,
Yep.
the easiest way, the quick fix.
Yeah.
But for me it was like, is it really wiring also that you wired yourself, the
Yeah,
brain?
because I mean, even the way you just described it, it's a failure with women. So you're looking for a feeling of success, and with the porn, there's always that feeling of success, right?
Hmm.
And that's why it's also important to not re look at it differently. In that, if it doesn't work with the woman, then it's because there wasn't an alignment. It wasn't a failure. It was just an experience. And when you go start talking to enough women, eventually there will be alignment, and that moves on to a new experience of being with that woman. The biggest thing that screws us up is we're trying to get approval and we're trying to get love rather
Yeah.
than just saying, I approve of me, I love me, let's just see if this person is right for me.
But for me, what was really like strange, because I've talked to women before. I can have a small talk with women, but I need to like work so hard to push myself towards her. And I was, why is it so hard for me every single time to
Yeah.
walk up to her and start having a conversation? Why is it? Why is it so hard for us men to do it over and over again? It's still, if you talk to 1,000 girls or women, it's gonna get easier. But why is it so hard for us to do it over and over again? It's
Yeah.
not like, okay, I've done it a couple of times, I know what to do, just go. But my body's always like pulling myself back, like, no, don't do it, dangerous.
So it's fear of rejection. Because
Yeah.
when we get rejected, we feel like people don't love us. However, she
Mm.
didn't think about us before we met her, and then if she says no, it's the same thing, nothing's changed. It's not like she doesn't suddenly like she loved us and she suddenly doesn't, and that's how we're making the rejection feel, right? So, when I was dating, it was fun with the first dates with a lot of women because I'm at the first date and I'm just being me. I'm just hanging out. I'm like as though we've just been chatting away for months already. And some of the women would be like, "I'm not sure what's happening right now." And I'm like, "What?" Because you're not behaving like most guys on a first date. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, because you're getting me. You're not getting me trying to impress you. You're getting me." Right? So if you decide you like who I am, this is who I'm going to be 6 months down the line, a year down the line. If you decide that you don't like who I am right now, then we can just end this date and go on. And it made for a bunch of dates that ended quickly because there wasn't alignment. They didn't like it. But other women, they're like, this is cool. And they would drop their defenses and then just start being them. And I'm like, ooh. And so that led to really great connections and longer term relationships because we're like, yeah, now like on the first date, I like this about you. I like this about you. And it was all about alignment rather than trying to win someone over.
So basically, when we go out into the world, we're wearing a mask, pretend to
Yes.
be somebody that we're not,
Yes.
just to feel loved or
Yes.
hopefully to get some love.
Yep.
Makes more sense now also for me because I was always trying. I wasn't aware, but now I'm more aware that I was always outside of myself looking for love. But now I realize that I'm always trying to be somebody that I'm not. I
Yep.
always try to please her. I always try to change her behavior so she likes me
Mhm.
and not show my really true self. So yeah, thank you so much for that, for really bringing that to me, and then I have an understanding. So Shiraz, I want to go a little bit deeper about your coaching. So what is it about your coaching that's so unique? Because I also, you mentioned that you also do guests, that you coach guests as well, and first vice versa.
Mhm.
So how did that started? What was the inspiration for you to do that?
To coach in general or the guest coaching?
Yeah, the coach in general and guest coaching, both.
The funny thing with the coach in general was it was just me trying to prove someone wrong. So I had come back after I'd cured my arthritis, and then I was learning different techniques to see what else I could shift in myself to create a better reality for myself. And I was practicing among friends and family, and they were getting some cool results. And then one of my friends said, "Shiraz, people will pay you for this." And I'm like, "No, this is just the thing I do. It's just like I'm trying to improve myself." And she goes, "No, people will pay you for this." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to charge $100 an hour," which I thought was a lot at the time. And I'm like, let's see if anyone actually pays me for this. And then people started paying me $100 for an hour for a session. And I'm like, oh my God, this is actually a business. So I registered the business and I was doing the work, and I really just started falling in love with the results that people were getting. Right. When it's just like, oh my God, I'm finally feeling better, or I'm making more money, or I just met the love of my life. And it's just like, this feels good helping all these people. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to quit my old job. I'm going to go full into this job. And, uh, and then eventually I was started off calling myself a life coach and then a transformational coach until I had one client. He always had things going wrong all the time. And he said, every single day there's problems to fix and I can't get away from it. And I just like a day where there are no problems. So when I started working with him, seeing what was going on in his life, we found out, well, he's a problem solver. Right? And he prides himself on being a problem solver, which there are a lot of people out there like that. So, what does a problem solver have to keep creating in his life in order to feel valuable? Problems. So, he was unconsciously creating problems every day so he could feel a sense of value. We shifted his belief on that, in that don't identify as a problem solver, identify as someone whose one of your skills is solving problems, but it's not your identity. And when he made that shift, the problems went away. And then 3 weeks later, he calls me and he says, okay, I got some problems. And I'm like, you sound surprisingly happy about that. What is going on? And he said, well, the first week there were no problems. And it was like, great, there's no problems. This is wonderful. The second week, there were no problems. And I'm like, how long can this go on? When's the shoe going to drop? And then by the third week, I've been in anxiety. And I said, wow, you're describing withdrawal. And that was the first time I made that association that people are addicted to a certain state and they go into withdrawal. And that made me change how I had dealt with all my clients in saying, I'm not going to do something, shift your mindset and then send you off, because 90% of the people after a few weeks or a few months, they'll go into withdrawal and end up back where they started. I looked at other coaching programs and it would be funny because I'd watch a testimonial video of how amazing the program was, catch up with that person. And they said, well, yeah, no, I'm back where I started. They did the testimonial at the peak of this is great. And then the addiction caught up with them later. So now I tell people, if you're working with me, you're in for the long term here. You're looking at 6 months to a year minimum to get over the withdrawal systems and anchor in the new reality so it just becomes your default. And that's what happens in my programs is we may clear the same issue, the same mental issue over and over and over again because you slip back into withdrawal. And I say, don't get frustrated with yourself. Just say, oh, this is just part of the process. This happens with every person. And this, I'm just clear it and I'll cure it. And every time we clear it, you last a little longer in the new state and you last a little longer in the new state until finally it becomes your default state. So it's just a matter of not being frustrated when you fall off the wagon.
That's really the thing, right? With our emotions, we created ourselves, the emotions, the problems. It's all we what we tell ourselves, how we look at things, because like I said, the positive we never really experience it, and once we experience, like, whoa, I don't want this. This is too much. That's what I did. Once I feel good, it's like, no, no, push it away. I don't want to have this responsibility. I don't want to feel this. I'm more in my zone when I'm feeling like shit. I'm not. I'm having these awful moments, and people like responded more to me that I believed. So, like you said, we're always trying to create that for ourselves. And I think
Yes.
it's really good eye opener for also for people to when they listen or watch this. It starts with yourself.
Yep.
It starts with how you look at yourself first and then others. Because I remember I was always blaming people. It's their fault, it's the government's fault, it's this fault, it's that fault. But then I started to put the mirror in front of myself. It was really difficult. But then I saw I need to change. It's me. It starts with me.
Yes.
Did you also have that epiphany, like, it starts with me. Now I need
Yep.
to make the change, not somebody else, not my partner, me.
So I actually wrote this book, How to Rewrite Reality. And the subtitle is Becoming the Author of the Stories in Your Life. Right. And for a lot of people, they're not even the primary character in their story. They're like working for someone else and they feel like a secondary character in their own life. Some people have got to the point where it's my life, I'm the primary character, but things aren't going great and I've got to go through all these struggles. When you become the author, you now have the power to edit and change your story. Now, as the author, you have to be in a state of, I'm creating everything, it's all my fault. Because if there's anything that isn't your fault, you can't change it. So a lot of people think, well, that's going to be too much responsibility if everything that shows up in my life is because of me. But if everything that shows up is because of you, then you can change anything. If it's not all yours, then there's times where you're just trapped and you'll never be able to change it. And that's not a state you want to be in.
And Shiraz, about anxiety, that came up to me. Anxiety, how does it start? Is it really start how we talk with ourselves, or is it really the trauma that's really holding us in check?
It's the trauma. So what happens is when you're really young and an issue happens, and actually one of the stories that in the book is about a little girl, and she's at a playground. She's like 6 years old on a playground at school, just sitting there reading a book, and some little boy comes up and hits her, and then runs away laughing. And we don't know why he did that. Right? It could be that he liked her and was trying to get her attention. It could be that there was a game of tag going on and she didn't know. It could be that he got dared to hit her. In that moment, though, she experiences this trauma of, oh my God, this boy hit me. I guess boys don't like me. So now she's created the belief, she's created context, even though it could have been something else. And this is what we do as kids, right? Especially between the ages of 0 and 6. And so now she's like, boys don't like me. So now, once that belief is there, she's created the story, boys don't like me. Whenever a boy is mean to her, she says, you see, boys don't like me. So, and she anchors in that evidence. I have evidence. This boy treated me mean, and this boy treated me, and this, and that's going to happen just naturally as you're growing up in school. Some boys are going to treat you meanly, and some are going to treat you great, and some aren't going to do anything. Same thing with guys and girls. Some girls are going to be mean to you. Some girls are going to really like you, and some girls just don't care. With her, though, she's like, boys don't like me. So whenever they're mean, see, there it is. Now, if a boy doesn't treat her good or bad, he's just sort of indifferent, just hanging out with her, it's just white noise. It doesn't register as anything. However, if a boy treats her really well, you would think that there's evidence that some boys do like you. But once the belief is formed, a boy treats her really well, and she's like, what's he want? What's he up to? Because I know boys don't like me. I have evidence of it.
Mm.
So she dismisses the evidence of the contrary. Now, when she gets older, now she's in high school and college and she's dating, she's attracted to guys that will say no if she asks them out. She's attracted to guys that will treat her badly if they get into a relationship. And she has no attraction to guys that will treat her like gold. Because if she dates them, that goes against her story. So she only looks for the ones that validate her story. And she doesn't do this consciously. This is all just going on so she can create more and more evidence that boys don't like her. And then when she gets into the workforce, she'll probably get a job with a misogynistic boss who's always, telling her, you should be doing this, and you should be doing this, because boys don't like her. There would be other job opportunities where there's an amazing boss that treats her great, male or female. And for some reason, she's like, I don't feel like I want to work there. I want to work here, because that makes her feel comfortable in her story that boys don't like me. And until she gets someone to point out that, look, you've put all the evidence in there, you can change your story, and then start really seeing where all these boys like you, then she's stuck.
But it was also the bunk, right, on the head. It was really anchored into her
Just
unconscious
anchor
mind.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now she is in anxiety with every guy she meets that he might hit her, whether physically or more metaphorically, because it was that emotion that she's actually trying to avoid. It's like, oh, what just happened? Why doesn't he like me? Like, is he going to come again? That the that felt so overwhelming because she did not expect it. It came out of the blue, that she's reacting now as though she'd be 6 years old again. Right. And she's afraid she's going to have that emotional impact over and over again. So that's why the anxiety comes up. Right. For like, let's say that you as a child were attracted to a little girl on the playground, and she's like, I don't like you. And that just hits you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't ever want a girl saying that to me, because that felt horrible. So now you're an adult and you're trying to date, except that 6-year-old you is still at the back of your mind going, make sure she doesn't say, I don't like you, or I hate you, or whatever that is to make us feel that badly. And so now the anxiety comes up as you talk to girl. What if she does that? What if she does that? You're not 6,
Mm.
but your emotions are acting as though you're 6.
It's quite funny that you mentioned that, because once I was younger at school, I
Mhm.
was with a girl. I was flirting with her, and she was then my
Mhm.
school girlfriend, and I got rejected by her, like boom, like out of the blue, and it it scared me. I was like, what's happening here? And after that, I could completely changed. I really went introverted. I really went shy. I didn't talk to women or girls.
Yeah.
And as I progressed in my life, I did the same thing over and over again. I was always avoiding, not taking any risk. I was like, wow, this is insane. Just how I've been rejected by her.
Yeah.
It took over. I
Yes.
wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah. So what you're trying to avoid is how you felt when she did that.
Yeah.
You're doing everything you can to make sure you never feel that way again. And the best way to do that is to make sure you don't get into a serious relationship with the girl, because if it's just casual relationships, or even if it's rejection, your heart doesn't go into it. If it was a girl you were dating and she rejects you, now your heart is all into it. You're like, oh my God, and you never want to feel that again. whole thing is you have to be willing to open your heart again to a place where someone else can do that to you in order to really have a good relationship. It's not that you plan for it, but it's like if you don't open up your heart like that to a woman, then a woman's dating you and she really likes you and she says, but he's not opening up to me and I feel like I can't connect to him. So you know what? I'm going to have to break up with him. And so then they break up with you and you say, oh, it's a good thing I didn't let her in because this hurts. She said she's breaking up.
Mhm.
Imagine how hard, how bad it would have been if I had opened my heart, except that opening your heart would have kept her from leaving. So you create this self-fulfilling prophecy of what relationships look like and what rejection is going to feel like over and over again because you're trying to protect your heart rather than than just being open and loving completely.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing my entire life, just protecting myself and protect my heart,
Yep.
because it felt like was my heart was ripped out of my chest and just
I
set on fire. It was
yeah,
awful.
I know
It
the
was
feeling.
really, really awful.
The first time I got rejected, I was 19 years old, totally in love with her. And you know those movies where the guy's been rejected and then he's like on the couch and he doesn't want to go anywhere. And he's like, that was me. That actually happened to me. So like, it's like
Man, it's
3 months of depression when she dumped me.
yeah.
Oh,
And
so
it's funny, right? With guys, it's so different than for women. When women they gonna have like a binge watch or Netflix, or they're gonna go out with girlfriends
mm.
and they're gonna start eating. But for men, we react so totally different. Why is that? Why is there such a difference between the men and the women?
So one of the things is how we're trained to be. We're trained
Mhm.
that men do this. Not all men do that, but most men are trained this is how a man handles rejection. And the women are trained this is how women handle rejection. So it's just stories.
Oh,
So
okay.
now when I get rejected by someone, it's just like, oh, okay, I guess I got rejected. Let's just move on. It's gonna hurt for a little while, but I don't hold it in and dwell in it like for 3 months like I did before. It's just like, okay, that happened. I get over it and I move on.
It's really like you just open my mind. It's just the things that you're telling me. I'm listening really carefully, but I also go back in my life and thinking about things about myself. And I learned a lot. And what I've really discovered is the way that I talk to myself. I always want to protect myself in a negative state so I don't get hurt, I don't get rejected, and don't get or avoid just to get hurt, but now I really want to make the change. So, how is for me the steps, and for other people that are listening to this, what are the steps they can take for also in my case starting to interact with women, but for other people's maybe to start their own business if they got a failure or relationship or marriage, they want to improve that. So, what are the steps that they can take?
Stop avoiding failure. Right? The more you embrace failure as part of the process and not as a negative, the faster you will succeed. Right? We are told failure is a bad thing. When we are little kids, we don't see failure as a bad thing. Right? And the biggest proof of this is how many kids do you know that tried to walk and then just said, you know, it's too hard. I'm just going to give up on this. Like, because as our parents, when we're that age and we're trying to walk, they're like, you got this, you're going to do this, we know you're going to succeed, and they give us that attitude. When we're in high school and we have failures, like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you do better? It's a completely different attitude. It's just how we're raised by our kids. So
Mhm.
when you have the same attitude towards a 16-year-old as a 2-year-old, then you're raising them the right way. They have a failure. It's like, okay, you got this. We're going to work through this. How can I help? How can I support you? I love you whether you're succeeding or failing. That kind of encouragement raises a completely different person. And now that you're an adult, that kind of encouragement towards you changes you to a different person.
Yeah, it's again just how you talk to yourself, and also how people talk into you
Yes.
changes everything.
Yes.
And it's really the most part of is how you talk to yourself, and that's how we have to change. I think the lingo is the most powerful way of also how we see ourselves.
Yep.
Like you said, like, hey, you look good in the mirror. Nobody does that, because also it's the worth, the self-worth. We don't feel that we're worthy enough to be loved, so we don't do that, or it's silly or it's gay to do that. But if
Yep.
you do it in a playful way, it changes everything. And that's how I also I've been always so I was never playful. I was really serious. I always took everything serious, and letting go and be playful was so difficult. So yeah, for me, just to see that now in a different way, and how I handle it. If a woman rejects me, I can also do it in a playful way and
Yep.
change my lingo instead of telling myself, "Well, I suck," or "I broke her heart," or "I was really bad to her." I can say, "Well, she's not interested, and I'm gonna look for somebody else that is." And everything changes, right? You feel better. You feel everything lifted off your shoulders. It's how you see things and talk to yourself.
Yeah. And just create that environment for yourself and then for the people around you. People in my programs, I've heard many times, like, one of the reasons I continue to work with you is because I can screw up and you don't judge me. Or if you do, I don't feel like you're judging me. You're just constantly encouraging me and showing that you're on my side. And they didn't get that growing up. And so that's the thing. That's what I do for myself, and that's what I do for my clients. And that shift in, wow, I can fail and not be judged and not be punished, it just starts to make you look at life differently and take different actions. And that's what causes more and more of my clients to have bigger and better success. Right. And it takes you out of the fear of big failure, because there's no punishment other than you didn't get what you wanted if you failed. Like, a couple of years ago, I did an event. I spent $25,000 on the event. I made zero sales. And so I was just like, man, what? And I was upset for all of an hour. And then I said, okay, let's look at what we did wrong. How can we improve it? How I can do it better. So next time I spend the $25,000, I will do at least $100,000 in sales. And then by the time the next year came around, I've done $1 million in sales.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
yeah,
But it's also you took a step back, right? You also looked at things that you could have changed. You could also continue doing the same thing,
yeah,
but that's just insanity because
yeah,
you expect different outcomes, but it's not going to happen.
yeah. So
Wow, that's a really cool story. So thank you so much for sharing.
thank you.
So Shiraz, I really want to go a little bit deeper about the heart. So why are people too much in the head and not acting from the heart? Why is people so afraid to listen to the heart and the intuition? Usually, if you go into a relationship, your intuition will tell you there's something wrong with this lady. This is not good. But why do we still choose to go into the relationship? Why are we not connected anymore to the heart?
So part of it is to try to get the win. I can get this girl. If I get this girl, it shows I'm valuable and I'm worthy. And so even if it's the wrong girl for you, you're just trying to prove that if I can get her, it means I'm valuable and I'm worthy. Now, when you get that inherently you are valuable and you are worthy, then you don't need to prove it to anyone. So getting out of this need to prove yourself will make life so much easier for you. That's when you can really come from the heart, because proving is always from the head. Right?
Hmm.
So just think, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Now,
But still, a part of us really want to show off that we're valuable, that we really want to show that we're worth. Because also we're afraid to lose this person if we're not.
yeah. So the part of you that really wants to show that you're valuable doesn't think you're valuable.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the irony of it. You're like, I have to show I'm valuable. The only reason you would think that is if you didn't think you were valuable, because someone that knows their value doesn't have to prove it,
Yeah.
right? So the more and more you embrace your value, the less you have to prove it. The less you have to prove it, the more people just see it. They'll just see it in you, and then they'll be pulled into your world. They'll be naturally attracted to you. So here you are attracting women without even trying, just because you're being you and loving you.
Hmm.
Right? So, I mean, look at it this way. Have you ever been to a dance club and there's this one person on the dance floor that is just loving, they're just dancing away, they're having a great time, they don't give a crap who sees them, what they're doing? Do you notice how everyone's pulled into that person? Like,
Yeah.
look at them. They're not trying to show off. You can tell the ones that are trying to show off, they're out there and they're strutting there, they're doing all these fancy moves. You can tell that they're trying to show off and impress people. But then there's that other person that's just having fun, and they're pulling people in a much more powerful way, because they are just there in a love of themselves and a love of the music and the dancing. And that's the natural state you want to be in. It does, and the thing is, it doesn't require any effort. Trying to prove yourself requires effort. Just being
Yeah.
yourself requires zero effort.
Yeah, that was also for me, always trying to be somebody that I'm not. And I also, once I was in the dating, I was in the pickup industry, and you get all these tactics, you get these things to put in your head to
Yep.
use and how to seduce women.
Yep.
But I wasn't me, and I'm still feel like I try to be this persona, just not to make mistakes, not to
Yep.
avoid rejection. But it's like you said, if I'm just being myself and tell her like, "Hey, I'm just nervous, but I want to say hi," she will respond better than for me trying to be somebody that I'm not.
Yep.
So yeah, that was for me. I'm processing what you're telling me, but it's yeah, that's
And
really
the thing
makes
to also keep in mind is if she responds to what you're doing to those tactics, then she's responding to who you're being in that moment with those tactics, which means you have to keep being that person over and over again, put that effort in constantly to keep this girl attracted to you, which means she's not actually attracted to you. She's attracted to the person that the tactics are showing her. That's too much work.
yeah,
Right?
it's exhausting.
Yeah. So when you get that there are thousands of people out there that are attracted to who you are genuinely, then you don't you can stop working at it. You can just be you. Now I mean you still want to work on yourself. I'm constantly working on myself to become a better person. However, I'm not doing it to find a partner. I'm doing it for my own sake. Right. And so that it's I find it fun. It's because I have a full life. I have women that are attracted to me without me trying anything. And it's just nice because now I love myself, and now that's confirmation of how I feel without me having to put any effort of it into it.
Yeah, not just only take care of yourself, also set boundaries. And I think there's a lot of people they're really afraid to set boundaries, so they let people in, so they feel loved, but you want don't want people out, so you don't set boundaries. And that was for me also really hard to set boundaries. If people were toxic, I let them walk over me. It was
Yeah,
just like, what am I doing? But I wasn't even aware.
yeah,
It's
and yeah, you'll
it,
see. There's certain things people you're just going to say no. I'm not doing that. That's not how it works. I remember one girl I was dating. I was staying with her at her place, and she had gone away for a weekend to go visit her family. And when she got back, several hours before she got back, I went through her whole apartment and cleaned everything. I wanted it just shining by the time she got home. And then she gets home and she looks and she can see how clean this place is, but cleaner than when she left. And then she starts wandering around the apartment and looking at everything. And then she comes back to me and she says, "You missed a spot in the bathroom." Right? And that was when I realized, well, no, I'm not in alignment with this woman. Right?
no.
The woman that that I'm in alignment with would say, "Thank you so much for cleaning your apartment." Leave it at that, even though I missed the spot. Right? But this person looks for what's wrong. That's when I realized I'm with a woman that looks for what's wrong. And so it was just like, no, that's not working. That relationship had to go from just that interaction. So now if I had been in, I have to make sure she loves me. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I'll go clean that up right now. I'll make sure it's perfect for you. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's not that's why would I want to keep that relationship? Because then I'd have to be doing that all the time to make her happy.
Well, sure was. It's like you just blew my mind with everything that you're telling me. It's just extraordinary. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
The thing that I also want to go a little bit deeper is also the meditation, because it's really, really powerful, right? To have a good meditation.
Yeah.
And
So
which one do you recommend? For do you have one of yourself, or you
yeah,
have one that you?
there's a whole bunch of great meditations out there. Dr. Joe Dispenza has amazing meditations for manifestation, to create the life you want, to break the habit of being yourself. I use this goes 12, 15-minute meditation where it's just breathing. It's just focusing on your breath. And I've actually recorded what I think so that you can listen to it and just follow along with what's going on so you can get focused, be able to think the thoughts you want to think rather than the thoughts that just keep showing up in your brain. And I put it together with some shorter meditations that are like 5 minutes and 2 minutes. And the package is called Stop Thinking Like a Goldfish, because most people can hold a thought for less than 7 seconds, which is the same as a goldfish. And you want to hold thoughts for longer periods of time, because the longer you hold a thought, the more powerfully you can manifest the thing you're thinking about. So if the thought is on money, if the thought is on a relationship, if the thought is, I am an amazing person, the longer you can hold those thoughts, the more powerfully they manifest. So, and the thing I love about the meditation, is 12, 15 minutes in the morning. Doesn't have to take up all this time, and it's just a great way to start my day, because when the time I'm finished it, I just feel centered and focused.
Yeah, it's also really powerful also to start in the morning because usually when you wake up, you just scroll on Facebook and just check your
Yeah.
messages. And instead of doing that, first clear the mind or doing breathing exercises or meditation just to have a balanced, stable mind.
Yeah. The best times for meditation are right when you wake up and just before you go to bed.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when you go to bed, it's interesting, because the state you go to sleep in will determine what's going on for most of your dreams. So if you go to
Mm.
sleep in a state of anxiety, you're probably going to have anxious dreams. If you go to sleep angry, you're going to have dreams about anger. So when you go to in a state of happiness or a state of peace and focus, then that's going to permeate through your dreams. And then when you wake up, you're still in that place, as just after you've woken up, of semi sleep awakeness. So when you get into a meditative state, right when you wake up and get into positive thoughts, focus on what you'd like to manifest, you can actually manifest it more powerfully, because you've still got access to the subconscious, which is what is actually creating everything. That channel's still open just when you wake up, and it's easier to get access to that. If you do a meditation during the day, you've got to go relax and go deeper and deeper and reopen that channel. In the morning, it's already open.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know because I was like, oh, when do I need to meditate? And a lot of people ask themselves, like, when do I start and when do I meditate? But I heard that before. Many people said, well, just do it when you wake up.
Yep.
Just it's the best way to do that. So how does your routine look like, Shiraz? Your routine for the morning when you wake up, doing the work and going to bed is really like focused on yourself or really
Oh yeah. So when I wake up, I've got a meditation, and I've got headphones for it. So I'll immediately get up, put on the headphones, get into that meditative state, and then I'm just gone for like 15 minutes. And then after that, actually before that, I drink a huge thing of water each morning. So I'll drink that, because I got to. You've just woken up. You're going to be dehydrated, so you're going to rehydrate yourself. Then do the meditation. Then after the meditation, I go for a walk, get the body moving, come back, and I put music on and go into the shower. And it's music that's just going to make me feel good. Just so I want to set the tone for the day. So that music is playing. I sometimes end up singing, sometimes end up dancing in the shower, depending on what's happening with the music. Get out, the music's still playing as I get dressed. I go down and I do this thing about asking my body. So I look around the kitchen and I'm like, body, what do you want to eat today? And then that's what I make for breakfast. And most of the time, it's a typical breakfast meal, but sometimes it's just like, I want some fish. I'm like, for breakfast? Yeah. My body's like, I need some fish right now. Whatever's in fish has the nutrients that I'm desiring, that I'm craving right now. So whatever it is, I'll just make it. When I have breakfast, I do it while watching cartoons. Right? So, when we were kids, we used to watch Saturday morning cartoons. And so I still do that as an adult, to stay in that childlike, playful mindset and stay childlike as much as possible. So that's what I do with my breakfast, finish getting ready. And then, oh, sorry, I forgot. When I get back from the walk, I work out. I do a half-hour workout, and then have breakfast. And sorry, then then shower, then have breakfast. Yeah, so that starts my day. It's going to go anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours to get there, and then I start into work. The other thing I've learned recently is doing that exercise before you work. Studies have shown that exercise right before you're doing mental activity for your business and stuff, makes you 10 to 50% more efficient. If you just get
Mm.
up and start working without energizing your body, you're not as efficient. And that lasts for at least 2 hours, if not more. So lunchtime, go and get myself revved up again, get the blood flowing. You don't have to get into a full sweat at lunch. You can if you want to do a workout, but then in the afternoon, you've got another minimum 2 hours of more efficient working.
Well, that's really cool because I was always like working out. When do I work out? I usually work out after work, but then it's like you said, it just you feel good, but it's not like in the beginning of the day. The beginning of the day, that's really everything, how you start.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also need to make some changes there as well. So thank you so much for sharing your routine. And the last question, or I have two questions, is what was the biggest challenge that you faced in your life, and what are the thing that you're most proud of?
I would say the arthritis was the biggest challenge. 18 years of pain, suffering,
Oh wow.
deterioration of my body. Started when I was 22 years old. I had it till I was 40. Yeah, and I'm very proud because that getting out of that arthritis is what led me down the path to doing everything that I'm doing. What I'm really proud of is the people that have changed their lives that I've worked with. Just seeing people have become healthier, have more success, have better relationships. When I hear things like "Thanks to you, I found the love of my life," and someone told me the other day that I saved their life, and
Oh wow.
it wasn't even me working with them. They bought my book, and the concepts in that book got them out of a suicidal state. And they said, "Yeah, that you saved my life. Thank you for that." And I was just like, "This is why I do what I do. This is what makes me really proud."
Yeah, that's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And also, what I want to add is also letting go, right? Letting go of the outcome, letting go of who you are, and just be who you are in a natural state. And don't force yourself to become somebody that you're not. Letting go by
Yep.
Dr. Hawkins, that book, that audiobook, just changed my life completely. It was like, wow, I was focusing so hard on my outside world, on myself, and am I doing the things right? The job, everything, I was just losing it. But then once I heard about just letting go, everything changed. I
Mm.
felt more relaxed. I felt better. And also what you said, if you don't focus on your pain,
Yep.
usually they disappear.
Yep.
So that's really powerful. So Shiraz, it's been really powerful. I really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned so much from you, and I'm thinking in the future I also might want to, yeah, be working with you as well.
Sure.
I'm also thinking to get your book. Sounds really interesting. It's
Thanks.
I'm really like addicted to reading and learning.
Mm.
So I think I can learn a lot from your book. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed our conversation and the things that I've learned from you. And hopefully we can inspire other people to do the same. And the last thing that I want to ask, what are your advices or your five main tips that you can give for people to also to change their reality, to change their life, and really become a more happy, healthy, successful human being or person or whatever how you want to call it, but really to live in alignment in who they are.
Okay. Wow, no one's ever asked me for 5. It's usually give me that one tip. So let's say 5. So,
If it's less, is less. It doesn't matter. Just
okay.
what feels right.
It's kind of a summary of what we've been talking about. So, number 1, talk lovingly to yourself. Right? Be forgiving, love yourself, have positive conversations. Number 2, choose your default emotion. So, whether it's gratitude, joy, happiness, like I don't know if it's an actual emotion, but my default is laughter. There's always a reason for me to
Mm,
laugh every single day, and not just like like big belly laughs. I have them every single day. It feels amazing. And then I looked at the studies, like laughter is actually healthy for you too, so that I get that as well.
yeah.
Except that you're creating everything in your reality. Therefore, you can change anything in your reality. And that is a very powerful place to be. And so if something good happens, wow, look what I created. That's awesome. If something bad happens, I wonder why I created that. So own it all. Number four,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
Number four, hang out with people that are happy, that are empowered, that will support you in everything you do. And the more people you hang out like that with that, the more you guys swap stories of success and empowerment. So the more successful and more empowered you become. And Number five, help other people. Right? You get a wonderful feeling, and it can be very addictive to help other people and see the results that you get. It's going to help them. It's going to improve your life. It's going to put you in a state of caring, and being a person that's genuinely caring about other people attracts people who want to care about you. So that's going to help you in your business. That's going to help you in your relationships. So help others as much as you can. That's my five.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shiraz, for your amazing knowledge, the things that you've been sharing with us, what you've been teaching us also in a way. But what the takeaway that I got is really how I saw myself, how I tried to be somebody that I'm not, that I tried to keep holding on a person that I created that I'm not. I want to be more free. I want to be more living and just having fun. But instead, I'm keeping myself in this victim mode and just be safe all the time.
Mhm.
So for me, it was really the eye opener. Like, I have to change that. I need to start taking better care of myself. Talk also in talkative way. Really be mindful how I talk to myself in a playful way, and don't be angry and frustrated. And why is this happening to me? I have the power to change that. But for me, the thing is, I usually, or I know it. I know how to do it. But once I talk with somebody like you or somebody else, like, I need to get those reminders and this fresh reminds, like, oh yeah, this is it. But you went really, really deep in understanding for how the mind and the body and the heart, how it all comes together. And with trauma, and also the story that you told me about the girl with the bump in the head, and how you perceive the world, how it is, it's all together. It's not just one thing, it's everything that comes together.
Mhm.
So you really gave me amazing insights. So I really, really want to thank you for that. And yeah, the last thing that is what I say is just to the listeners is, if you're feeling really like in a hard situation, or you don't find a way out, or you also the things with women or dating, or the things that you're struggling with, talk to with Charles. It's like I said, he's just such a big heart. He's open-minded and wants to give the best, and really, really want to help you be successful in any way that he can. So I really recommend to check his work out, and see if he can help you. So
Thank
Shiraz, thank you so much. And how can they follow you? How can they follow your work and the things that
you.
you do?
The easiest way to follow is to go to energeticmagic.com. So that's the name of my company. That's also the name of the technique I use to help you break free of the addiction. So energeticmagic.com. And thank you so much for having me on the show, Vincent. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. And I will put everything in the show notes so people can check it out and see, yeah, the things that you do. Like I said, I really love your vibe, your energy, and just you gave so much value and insight. And I'm really grateful to have this conversation. So Shiraz, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hey Lions, thank you for listening. Glad to have you on our journey to the authentic self. Want to learn more to embrace your potential? I invite you to keep listening. Do me a favor and smash the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps the show reach more listeners who need to hear these messages. See you next time.